Mr. Garrison, we do know that considering the geopolitical tensions in West Asia, Trump is now under pressure because of the Iran war. He enters Beijing under pressure, while we also know that China remains heavily dependent on Iran's oil. So their focus is also on stability inside the Strait of Hormuz. How important is Iran during this agenda, during this meeting?
Well, incredibly, because unfortunately, even here within the last 48 hours, we've inadvertently given Iran even more power. Now that you have countries like Pakistan that are going through their own diplomatic channels and striking deals with Iran for a safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz. And you're going to potentially see more countries in the region do that, as well as we're hearing reports that, sorry, and I have a visitor here. We're hearing reports that of Saudi Arabia and UAE and some other countries potentially having kinetic activity with Iran as well, which is only likely to cause more friction and more issues. So we've got to find some type of balance on this moving forward. It's going to be pivotal, and it's going to take voices of world leaders to really bring this all to a head. At the same time, Iran now has a hold on some level of power that is likely not to give up very quickly. And the Strait of Hormuz is now producing actual revenue for Iran in a way it hasn't in previous times. So again, this is going to it's going to be very necessary to strike some type of new paradigm whenever these leaders are having these discussions, to think strategically about how we're going to move forward in de-escalating a lot of these tensions and finding some type of long-standing peace that's going to help everyone economically. Oil prices are continuing to skyrocket, and that is causing greater prices across the board on everything for not only Americans, but the geopolitical community.
Absolutely. And Mr. Garrison, we understand that President Trump is also walking a tightrope. And while we're at the topic of Iran, let's also address the elephant in the room, which could emerge to be Taiwan. And we understand how delicate the situation over there is. And even a slight change in wording, a tomato could also prove to be catastrophic. Now, do you think President Trump has enough on the line to operate with that level of precision?
I believe that he is surrounded by a lot of longtime diplomats and defense officials who very much understand the need for nuance and to really choose their words carefully in this particular instance, because, as you said, it could definitely be the difference between some type of potential catastrophe and continued stability within the region. So it's going to be paramount that they're thinking through exactly each of these steps. And so far, we haven't seen anything that looks like anyone is coloring outside of the line, so to speak. But they're going to have to continue to maintain this. And this isn't any of the individuals there. This is not their first rodeo. We understand that these power players are looking for opportunities to potentially exploit a language or a situation that's going to be most beneficial to their own interests and the interests of their countries, and you're going to see both of them continue to play this very closely. So I think the Americans are going to be in a very good position, but you still have to land the plane on this.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Garrison, as we talk about Taiwan, we know that bipartisan senators in Washington are urging Trump to affirm the support of U.S. towards Taiwan. And this also comes after mixed commitments and mixed signals from Washington towards Taipei. So what do you think will be Trump's stance towards Taiwan? And do you think the response from Beijing will be what he expected?
It's going to be really important to continue to ride a firm line of support within the type of language that China is used to hearing, accustomed to hearing for the United States, and not looking at Taiwan, particularly as at least in this conversation or context, as any type of political power in and of itself. That's a part one to this. But look, you're also going to have China looking potentially at other regional conflicts like the ongoing Ukrainian war, as well as now the conflict in Iran, pointing to it and trying to use it as some type of potential, trying to use both of them, as some potential type of leverage in order to focus on and continue to move forward with its own interests. So I think you're going to see the United States continue, as not only President Trump, but other presidents before him have walked the tightrope, so to speak, with China on Taiwan and on a lot of these various issues, and continue kind of at least in this moment, it's important to keep on a status quo. We have so many different competing interests going on geopolitically right now that it behooves us to maintain at least sure footing on one of them in the short to medium term.
Right, and back home, Mr. Garrison, Trump has built much of his political messaging around being, tough on China. And we also understand that the kind of pressure that Trump is under, he would perhaps feel the need to project a diplomatic victory here this time around, given the inflation, the declining approval ratings, and of course the approaching midterms. How do you think that is going to sit with China at this moment? Because we understand that right now it is a tussle of who has the upper hand, who has the leverage at, this moment.
Xi Jinping, if nothing else, is definitely a long-standing, strong political figure in terms of understanding and reading a situation and knowing what is in his best interest to do in a particular moment when it comes to meeting with and speaking with a lot of various different type of global leaders. And I think for him, Donald Trump is going to be no different. We already saw here in the early goings and some of the footage you folks played that they were both providing glowing remarks to one another, and in front of the cameras as they're walking through, seeing the people, seeing the media, seeing the kids out celebrating them, that they're going to look for opportunities to really have a positive rapport with one another, because they both honestly need to get something out of these talks, and they both want to have a kind of a win-win situation, at least on some of these key issues moving forward. And the U.S. is going to want to continue to find ways to curb or at least slow the growing power of China when it comes to emerging technology and AI. At the same time, China is looking for opportunities to further develop its own supply chains beyond any type of U.S. control. So they're going to continue to kind of play this hand back and forth of being somewhat of frenemies in front of the camera, and letting diplomats behind the scenes work out a lot of the black letter law and trade and deals within all of this.
Indeed, Mr. Garrison, it will be interesting to see how the summit, how the meet between the two countries will eventually pan out during Trump's tightly packed 36-hour visit. Thank you for joining us here at WION World is One.
Thank you for having me.